Greetings. Hotep, peace, all that good stuff. Before we begin, a couple quick announcements, because just to address a couple things. I've gotten a ton of emails and haven't been able to get to a lot of the emails in the last couple weeks because I've been extremely busy. So I'm trying to go through some of these emails. As I said before, I can't get to all of them. It's literally impossible. Just don't have the time. So I just ask people to keep in mind, I don't just do this full time. I do run two businesses in addition to this. I do consultations, and I do this on the side. So it takes up a lot of time. So I try to manage my time as best as I can. But lately, the last couple of weeks, I've been spending time with family, visiting family, things of that nature. So it's been a little bit tough for me to get to all the emails. So I just ask people to be patient. It's not that I'm ignoring your emails, or I haven't gotten to some of them, or it is I just haven't gotten to some of them, is what I'm saying. Also, to let people know, people that have been attending the events for the last year and some change, we are taking a break. The next 2 months, we will not have any events. This month in November, which is pretty much almost over. We will not be doing nothing December, but we will in January. We'll restart up with our group collective rituals in January. We're aiming at the end of January. We'll get you more information on that as it gets closer to that date. And if you've tuned into the radio show the last couple of weeks, we're taking a break from that until the 7th. We'll be back on the Awakening Universal Minds radio show on December 7th. We'll resume that. Just taking a little break. Again, trying to take care of some personal stuff, spending some time with family, things of that nature. And sometimes you just got to take a break. It's that simple. So I know I've seen some emails people have sent asking questions, what's going on? Is everything okay? I didn't see an event. That's all. There's nothing in particular going on. Just going to take a 2-month break. Resume in January. We will be doing a ritual for those that are here locally. We will be doing the cursed tablets ritual, which is done at a cemetery. It's a powerful ritual. I'm gonna get into that on the YouTube channel. Those that are linked in contact with me, I'll get you more information over that in next week. So that's going to be something we're going to be doing just here on a local level. Those that have contacted me for consultations, I am still squeezing them in. That's pretty much the only thing I have not stopped doing, because that's pretty much impossible not to do, because those come consistently. I ask you to at least contact me a couple days before you're looking for the consultation. And as I do in the beginning of the videos now, instead of contacting me of how a consultation works, I kind of address that in the beginning of the videos for the most part. Basically lasts up until an hour. Till we're done, or an hour, whichever one comes first, and how the consultation works. And those that have been working with me for the last several years know how I work and how I operate. You're gonna do this shit yourself, okay? I'm gonna give you helpful information that's gonna help you do what you need to do to assist yourself. But in essence, it all relies on you. You'll find that out. But basically, how a consultation works. You can dictate whatever you want to focus on in that consultation. If you want to focus on a particular area, a particular situation, or if you just want to deal with things in general, you pretty much dictate how the consultation goes. You could have a list of questions, things you want to know. If you're looking to work certain rituals, to obtain certain results, we can focus in them areas, etc. I will communicate with you through that consultation, whatever information comes through, via if it's in relation to your spirit guides, ancestral spirits, etc., ancestral relatives that'll pass on. That stuff does come through during the consultation, and whatever comes through, I will pass on to you, and you will be able to confirm, those things based on our conversation. It can be done either in person, or it can be done via a social media platform. I prefer either Google Hangouts or Skype. Google Hangouts is probably the best preferred method because the feeds are clear. Skype tends to, depending on where you are, sometimes the Skype is a problem. I've even done them on emo or other platforms, etc. That's fine too. If you can't get to me in person, it does cost $52 to do that consultation, and it can be paid for via PayPal or Square. Real simple. So that's what a consultation is. That's how it works. So if you are interested, you don't have to email me and ask how does a consultation works. That is your information right there. If you are interested in getting a consultation, you can go ahead and email me and we can set up an appointment and go from there. All right, so I hope that's clear. Those I consistently do. I have not stopped doing that, but we've taken a break from the group rituals until January. We'll start off the new year fresh. How this works, if those that work this path know, the end of the year is a time for, black adepts have to get their end of the year stuff done, get organized, and kind of get ready going into the new year. So having said that, hope that's clear on the announcement. For those that have been contacting, wanting to know again about events and what's going on, etc., there's your answer. All right, so having said that and gotten that out of the way, what I want to kind of talk about is harmony, okay, on a couple of different levels. Because again, as you know, what I've been doing for the last several months is making videos based on emails I get, because some of the emails, the questions that are being asked kind of fall in line with similar emails from other people. So it's hard for me to answer each email, so I kind of try to address certain questions I get in the emails and the videos, because I know most of the people that email me are subscribers to the YouTube channel, so I try to address their questions on the YouTube video. All right, let's talk about harmony. You'll find in a lot of, again, conscious circles, as we talked about on a few videos back, a black adept knows how to work with every type of energy. I want to stress this. It's not, even though the focus and the power lies in what we call dark energy, hence you get the term black magician or black adept. When we say dark, black evil, as I said in many videos in the past, again, one has to rid their mind of all these fictional definitions, these Hollywood definitions, shit you hear on the internet, and from people that study in conscious circles that already have a predetermined definition of what that means. Again, as we said, the black adept knows how to take all of those energies, what one would term dark, lighter, good, or bad, which there's no such thing, and knows how to combine and work with those energies when need be, and knows the right time to harmonize and work with those energies. A black adept doesn't look at anything as good or bad. I can't stress that enough. A black adept, the challenge is educating themselves and making themselves knowledgeable on when to utilize certain power and certain energy. The problem is where people struggle in their spirituality is they tend to focus on more one than the other. And this also goes for people that claim to be dealing with left-hand path doctrines and philosophies and spirituality, because also it's not just about being dark and strictly dealing with that. As you know, a couple videos back, and we did a ritual a couple of months ago, it was a ritual invoking what we call the triad of light and darkness, and I did a video on this. I'm going to revisit it a little bit. And that ritual is centered on balancing, or as I say, scratch that word, they call it balancing. We like to use the word harmonizing the lighter and the darker energies. The difference between a black adept and, say, somebody else who studies spirituality is they know how to work and combine both of those energies to their advantage. The problem that tends to happen when people study on this path, and not just this path, a lot of other paths, people tend to gravitate towards shit that they like, and then they get stuck there. And just because they like it or they've been doing it for so long, they think in their mind that that's the right thing or the only thing to do. And this creates stagnation. You never want to use the word balance, because you'll hear that. In the Kemetic conscious circles, they'll say you must achieve ma'at, balancement. When things are balanced, they're also stagnated and at a standstill. And on this path, things are always vibrating, always moving. There's constant frequency, there's constant energy. That never ceases or stops. And that's why I always refer people to the 7 principles of Tahuti to get a good understanding of how you can combine the subjective universe and the objective universe, how they both work. Because the overall goal of a black adept is tapping in to the unlimited potential of their subjective universe and making that a reality on their objective universe. What does that mean? Okay, if you're working a magical ritual, because one can go into the subjective universe and make a drastic change in their life in the objective universe. This is what we do as black adepts. This is what our goal is. This is why we practice black magic. And this is why I've said in many videos, you can alter and control your immediate environment and surroundings, but we've been fooled over the years belonging to so many different organizations, dogmas, and philosophies and groups that teach you this false illusion that you can save the whole entire world. That's a bunch of bullshit. And in that equation, most people that go out and try to save the entire world can't even save themselves. And this poses a huge problem. So we're going out there unarmed, not right. And we're going out there trying to accomplish something that from get-go we've never truly been prepared for. And most of these dogmas and philosophies, unfortunately, over the years, have taught this false illusion. And then disappointment sets in. And then we start to question ourselves and we start to question the principles that we stand on. Some make the transition into something better or something more productive for them, or some keep finding excuses to stay stuck in those dogmas, philosophies, or whatever it is. The goal of a black adept is learning the science of tapping into their subjective universe and altering and manipulating a situation to their advantage. Whether that's for health, whether that's for finances, whether that's for career, whether that's for protection against enemies, you name it. Anything that needs to be done, because you are always in control of your immediate surroundings and environment. That's yourself, your family, etc. Nothing or anything can penetrate that unless you allow it. So if bad things happen to you, they're happening for a reason. Now, there are circumstances, and don't get me wrong, and I've mentioned this before, because I don't want to paint the picture, this spooky, illusionary picture that's not a reality. There are circumstances and things that happen, and they happen for a reason, and some can't be prevented because these things tend, for an example, a health issue. Things will happen. We'll try to get spooked and say, well, if I'm doing this, why did something happen to me dealing with my health? Well, you just might have been eating bad, or you just might have been doing something that brought that on, or it could have been something that was inherited through a hereditary process, etc. So we can't go to the extreme, because sometimes when we go to the extreme, disappointment sets in because we set this bar of expectation that's not a reality. Things happen, but you always have the ability to alter and manipulate a certain situation. Let me give you one example, and this recently happened with my father, who recently discovered that he had a cancerous tumor under his armpit. At first, it was told that this could be extremely bad. Wasn't sure the process of how it was going to be addressed, whether it could be handled, etc. Whether they would have to go the extreme with chemo, radiation, etc. Long story short, once we identified the problem and were able to go to work on it, long story short, not to get into depth, we were able to get it to a point where we were able to get it completely removed, which I say to this day, as of now, he's finishing last couple of weeks of not chemo treatment, radiation treatment, just to make sure it's all gone. But the diagnosis turned something that was originally extremely bad, and this is one thing I've been busy working on. And this the last couple of weeks, and again, I don't like to air out my personal business because it's just something I don't do. I'm using this as an example. You will get tried in crisis times with certain things. So we went to work on this. Long story short, pretty much at this point right now, finishing the last couple of treatments, and a lot of the work we did, and we know it was a lot of the work we did, that stuff is completely gone, removed. But there's still a process there. You still have to stay at work on it. And here's another reason why people get disappointed, because once they get a result from something, as I've said before in previous videos, they stop doing consistent work. So for an example, I use this example with my father. work still has to be done in the health area consistently to keep control of that situation. You can't just do it one time and get the result, and then all of a sudden you're just going to stop and think that everything's just going to take care of itself. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy. And I said before, if we approached problems on this level where we attacked it spiritually first before we attacked it physically, we would get results tremendously. We would rid ourselves of this unification problem that we have worldwide. People always want to say, why can't we come together? Why can't people come together? People can't come together because they're disunited mentally and spiritually. It's that fucking simple. I can't stress that enough, because when you look in the melanated conscious community, as I said before, you got too much division and separation. And this is why I left that whole nonsense several years back. It's just a circle of pure delusional, egotistical nonsense. People fighting and debating over who's right and who's wrong. I mean, we got in the melanated community so many different ideologies, and we're never going to come together. Period. It's never going to happen. Don't fool yourself. You're always going to have black Hebrew Israelites screaming, hooting, and hollering. You're always going to have Nubians thinking that they have all the answers to everything, and they don't. You're always going to have the Nation of Islam claiming they're right. You're always going to have the Kemetic conscious community saying that they have the soul lock on the truth, etc. The list goes on and on. We could be here all night talking about it. This in itself is part of the problem that creates the illusion that we are getting somewhere, because all of these groups and all of these dogmas preach unification and coming together. But when you look at it as a whole, and you look at it unbiased, and you look at it honestly, you say to yourself, there is no unification there. We spend more time debating, bickering, and nonsense when we could utilize that time to work our spiritual powers, our connection with our ancestors, our connection with our God self, or as we call on this path, the Agatho demon, which is your real self. Okay? When you tap into the divinity of your Agatho demon, some will call it, we use the term God if that's what you need, you will find that once you tap into the true potential, I'm not talking about reading about the shit, I'm not talking about talking about it, because there's a lot of people out here that talk a good game. It sounds good, the bullshit flowing out of their mouth, it sounds like, we fall for smooth talkers, and there's a lot of them. It sounds good coming out of their mouth, it sounds heavy, but in essence, there's no substance behind it. And as I said before, the difference on this path, you will be required to produce results. It's that simple. This is not about just talking a good game because you read a couple of books and it sounds good, and now you go spit some knowledge and you're getting props and people patting you on your back and telling you how deep you sound. That's a bunch of bullshit. This path, simply the measuring rod to determine if you're progressing on this path and achieving where you need to go, is your results. I did a video a while back called Must We Suffer to Grow? I did this a while back, a year or two ago. If you go in the archives, you'll see it. Some people don't want to suffer to grow. They refuse to embrace hardship. They refuse to accept opposition, and they shut down and have what we call tunnel vision. Let me. What do I mean in relation to that? I'm talking when people's, let's say, doctrines or dogmas are challenged, and in their mind and their heart, they know something has been pointed out to them that they've been following or studying or practicing for years, and the flaw has been brought to their attention. The incorrectness of what they're doing has been brought to their attention, but they decide to just ignore it and continue as if it doesn't even exist. This creates a serious problem and a stagnation in that individual's growth. When we say suffer, we're not just talking about physically. We're also talking about mentally and emotionally. One must suffer and go through drastic changes and obstacles in order to grow. It's that simple. Okay? And I reflect that applies to me, because as I said before, I came through many different conscious circles, and those that know me know my history. And when you're doing something since you were in high school, and I'm talking about coming out of high school, 17 years old. I'm 46 years old now. So here we are 29 years later, going on almost 30 years later, and I was doing something for well over 20 plus years. It wasn't an easy pill for me to swallow. I had to come to the realization, in order for me to grow and continue to evolve, okay, I had to come to that realization and accept the reality that what I was doing was incorrect. Okay, and I found out, and I've said this before to many people that know me, I found out all the shit that I was told to stay away from for years was the shit that I should have studied and gravitated towards too. Everything that's classified as left-hand path that people say are demonic and it's the devil, and that's all religious bullshit. Baphomet and the pentagram, and when you study its essence and go back to the 21st and 22nd dynasty of Egypt, you see the pentagrams were used as seals, put on many different things, whether it was hieroglyphic papyruses, whether it was certain relics. It was the pentagram has its origin in ancient Egypt, and I've said that before. All you got to do is go research it. The illusion of Baphomet as being some demonic devil deity representing the devil is fucking stupid if you don't really know what you're studying. As you know, Baphomet is a occult symbol. It's not a deity. But you got people that get caught up in sensationalism. Oh, well, the Templars worship Baphomet, and he's some type of demon devil. And you know, when you go back into European Satanism, you know, and this is where people get their definitions. True left-hand path has its origin in ancient Egypt. It has nothing to do with European Satanism. Because modern day people call, and I said before, a lot of things that are being labeled left-hand path today are not left-hand path. Don't be deceived. Don't be fooled. So don't get sucked in to the illusion. I found out that all the things that I was told to stay away from in all these groups that I studied with for years was the shit I should have really focused on. And they were programmed to tell people to stay away from those things because they really couldn't explain it. All they were given was predetermined stereotype definitions of what these things were and represented. And you're going to find out there's more peace, love, harmony, and balancement in the sense of harmony on the left-hand path than you will find in any other dogma or philosophy. People talk about love. What is love? Okay? All of these religions claim unification, or dogmas claim unification and love. You don't really understand what unification and love is until you really study and master this path. Okay? And it starts with tapping into the Agadil demon. Okay? Your true self, your personal demon, your God self, whatever you need. And as I said before, for those of you watching this video for the first time, you hear the word demon, there's again another spooky definition that we've been programmed with for years. All you got to do is go to your Wikipedia and you'll find out the origin of that word. As I've said before in several videos in the past, you'll find out the D-E-M-O-N English word came from the Greek word that was put in English, D-A-E-M-O-N. Okay, and the word D-A-E-M-O-N, demon, means highly intelligent being. Go look it up. It's a Greek word. Okay, so when we say our demon self, it's our divine self, a highly intelligent, conscious entity or being is what a demon really is. And you need to get in tune with your real demon self, your agatho demon, your personal demon. Okay? Now you'll find as you read the etymology of this word, you will find when it got put into monotheistic explanations, after this comes way after the fact, during the Abrahamic religions of monotheism, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, you'll see it spelled D-E-M-O-N, and then that was given in the definitions of monotheism or religion. It was given this connotation of being devils and demons and all this negative, or what religion classifies as being evil. We're not talking about that fictitious definition of what a demon is. Now, this is hard for a lot of people to stomach because when they hear the word demon, automatically comes to mind is all those negative definitions. Again, as I said, as I had to do in the past, do your research. You will find out that all that stuff that we've been programmed with is completely false. It has no validity to it. So one again must come to the realization to be willing, when I say again back to the word suffer, just simply means to go through changes. Okay, we hear this term in a lot of conscious circles. Anything that doesn't change dies, right? I'm sure we've all heard that somewhere before in some type of spiritual, metaphysical, comedic, conscious circle. We heard it somewhere. The funny thing is, a lot of people that say that, I don't see them changing at all. That's the funny thing. Because you can't make that statement and you've been doing the same shit for the last 10, 15, 20 years. If anything that doesn't change dies, okay, then why are a lot of people that are making that statement not changing at all on what level? Now, I also want to stress this, as I've said before. In that change, there must be consistency, okay? Meaning it has to add up. Some people, then you have erratic change that really doesn't make any sense because it's usually done for a particular motive or an individual's agenda, especially when you belong to certain groups of dogmas. We're not talking about that type of change. I'm more or less talking about each individual is going to evolve on their own level, and they're not going to evolve exactly the same as the next individual. So you can't measure yourself and your change mentally, spiritually, and emotionally to somebody else's, because everybody's journey is special in the sense that it's different. And that's what makes this path unique, because you are the governor. You're the one controlling that journey as you take it. You're not following some guidelines, some map, some criteria, some rules, or some regulations that somebody put forth. Because when you do that, you stifle the creativity of your consciousness. Okay? You can't grow as your spirit and your energy needs to grow because you have some type of criteria laid out in front of you that's guiding you, telling you how you need to do it. No. On this path, you tap into your Agatha demon, and it determines what direction you go, what you need to do, what you need to stay away from. Because you're going to find out maybe some of the things you're staying away from now, you might have to tap into some of them things later, and vice versa. Because the spirit or the real demon self will dictate to you what's needed. Not because somebody in a lecture said it, not because I said it, not because you read it in a book. You'll get that realization within yourself. Boom, you might just be sitting there, as I said before, on the couch watching TV, and bam, you get this inclination to carry out a particular ritual or to work with a particular archetype. Well, that is your true Agatha demon, your true self kicking in, communicating to your subconscious mind what needs to be done. This is being in a state of being a real God. Okay? I'll use the term people are familiar with. Okay? Again, as I said before, people throw that term around so loosely over the years. I'm a god, I'm a goddess, but they don't live up to the definition of it. What I like to do is I like to ask them in their own words, not something that they read in a book, not something that they heard some leader in a lecture talk about. I asked them to define in their own words, and they missed that part, their own words, what does it mean to be a god or a goddess? And 99.9% of the people I asked that question to, they give a rehearsed definition from something they read or heard, thinking that it's their own words, but not realizing subconsciously they're reiterating something that's been stamped in their subconscious mind and just communicating it, and they're under the illusion, and they'll go, well, that is my own words. No, that's something you read. Because if you were giving it in your own words, it would have its own significance that was relevant to you. And nobody ever gives that definition. You understand what I'm saying? And this is a hard pill to swallow. And I'm saying that again from experience because I was one of those people that would walk around, here, we're gods and goddesses, we're the first this, and we're the first that, and the original this, and the blah, 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 blah. It's all talk. It's all bullshit. It has no substance. Okay? One has to shift and move as far away from that mentality or way of thinking. And again, as I said before, being an adept of the black arts on this path, the hardest challenge is putting everything aside that you've been taught and going into your ritualistic workings, especially on an individual level, and understanding that there is no limitations. There is no right or wrong when working this. And you can't let personal ideologies influence your work, or your work will be unsuccessful. Most people, it's hard for them to leave that aside. When you're working with the subjective realm, you have to learn you're going to tap into some bizarre shit that you really didn't think was a reality. And you're going to find out the power of the mind, because the mind will take you to places you didn't even know existed. And that is your reality. Okay? That is what makes you God, because as you tap into that reality and that potential of the divine mind, if you want to use that term, it makes you feel comfortable. When you're able to tap into that ability, you will truly see how powerful you are. You will truly see what type of God you really are. And again, if you're watching this video and you're religious, we ain't talking about your definition of a monotheistic religious God. Because you'll hear people go, well, oh, that's blasphemous because God is the creator, blah, 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 and God is the... Well, that's your religious definition of it. We're talking about a real, living, breathing, intelligent God that can be confirmed through reality. And what is God? God is simply an individual, male or female, that takes control of their spirituality. Okay? We're not talking about this fictitious, infallible God, because as I've said before, the religious God of the Bible or the Quran or the Torah has many flaws, because it's a jealous God. It's a God that loves war and blood. It's a God that requests the smell of blood and sacrifice. It's a God that permits prostitution and violence and incest. The list goes on and on. Okay? We don't want to even get into that. That's a whole other dead topic. We're not talking about when I say your religious people's fictitious concept of God, because they've gotten this concept that it's some spooky individual that resides in the sky that controls everything. That's not what we mean when we say God. A God is somebody simply who takes responsibility for his or her actions and is, again, the sole governor and controller of their spirituality, in control of the direction that they're heading in. That's our definition of God. So that removes all the spooky bullshit. Because you go, well, you can't be God because if you get sick or you get hurt or you make a mistake. That's what I'm saying. Your preconceived notions of what God means usually comes from some religious explanation. So I want to make that clear. We're not talking about that type of God. Okay? We're talking about a God is somebody that does not conform to the norm, does not agree with what everybody else is doing just for the sake that everybody else is doing it, is not afraid to tap into the isolated aspect of their subconscious mind and go with whatever it is they tap into that's productive for them. Okay? We call that the isolated consciousness on the left-hand path, a nonconformist. And as we said before, Set represents the God of isolation. Set is the only and most unique archetype in ancient Egypt, in that it did not conform to any of the ideologies. And that's why, again, as I've said before in many previous videos, that's why Set is demonized as some type of devil character, because he did not agree with the norm. Just as if today you were in a circle of people who were indoctrinated with faith, belief, and religion, and you pointed out the inconsistencies or the fallacies with their dogmas and beliefs, you would be ostracized as some type of devil character. It's the same thing. And again, when you study ancient Egypt, as I said before, you will find out that Set, okay, understanding who Set was, especially prior to the 22nd dynasty, he was that key to spirituality. He was one of the highest revered deities in the afterlife or the underworld, prior to what he was regulated to or what people demonized him to later on down in the historical records, because he refused, as I said before, the Setian cult refused to conform to what the Osirian cult was proposing at the time, and basically said, no, you do your thing, we're going to do our thing. And they weren't having it. And then this is where Set from that point in history gets demonized, but that's a whole nother story. Dealing with this eternal life thing is one more thing I wanted to address, because somebody told me to address this in a question. This is going to kind of shift topics just a little bit, but I promised I would get this in there, because this person has emailed me this question several times in the last couple of weeks. And again, partially because having so many emails in the inbox at once, sometimes I just don't get to them, or skip them or erase them by accident, etc. I had made a statement in one of my videos about the realm of the dead. They were a little confused. The realm of the dead is actually the realm of the living, and the realm of the living is actually the realm of the dead. Let me explain. Okay, we've got it twisted. What we're determined as life and living, like we're breathing, we're alive, right? On the physical or in the physical realm. On the physical realm, whatever you want to term it, classify it. We again have been falsely deceived into thinking this is life. Right? It's an aspect of living, because I could touch my hand, I could feel it. I could touch my knees, I could feel it. I could touch my face. I can breathe. I can acknowledge the aspect of other living humans or entities, etc. As I've said before, when you were birthed into this world and came through your mother's womb, and we all came through the womb of a female, from that very point forward, you began to actually die and evolve back into eternal life from whence you came. What we call the realm of the dead, especially when you deal with what we call the Gede or the Vodun pantheon. You have a lot of the Vodun pantheon that deals with what we call the realm of the dead, which is the realm of the living. I myself do a lot of work with, I don't know if you can see back there, Santa Muerte, the Holy Death, right back there. Okay, I do a lot of work with that. That's one aspect. Anubis or Anubu, another aspect. I'll tell you why I'm telling you these things to the person that sent this question in. Baron LaCroix, any crossroad archetype, okay, that deal with the representation of connecting the physical realm with the realm of eternal life, or what they call the realm of the dead. And the realm of the dead just simply means these are archetypes or beings that have now transitioned to an estate of real eternal life, because it's only called the realm of the dead here because we're looking at it from a perspective of us being alive and existing on the physical realm, and we're looking at it that because what we've defined subconsciously, whether we accept it or not in our mind, what death is, we think again that this is living, and where they're at is dead. And why I said what I said in that video is it's actually the reverse. They have the ability, living on that realm eternally, whether you want to term it in a spiritual state, if that's what you need to grasp it, but yet have the ability to still personify and make contact with us on this realm at will. When one raises themselves up to the vibration and frequency, they can connect with entities, especially ancestral entities on that realm, be it a grandparent or be it many manifestations. There's not one particular, let's say Baron LaCroix. As I said before, there's not one particular Anubu. There's been many people that have raised themselves up to an Anubu status. There's not one particular aspect of La Santa Muerte, the Holy Death. You'll see different depictions, different colors or symbols that are represented with La Santa Muerte. And as I said, La Santa Muerte, the Holy Death, goes back to an ancient Aztec goddess, the goddess of the underworld, that connected the realm of the living to the realm of the dead, which is vice versa. When we make it to the transitional state that they're in, we are now have reached the state of eternal life. Anubu or Anubis represents that same archetype in ancient Egypt. A black adept knows how to work with those energies, connect with them, and make it a reality. One of my most paths that I like to work with and gravitate with, I don't just stay stuck in it. I want to make that clear, because as I said in the video, don't just get stuck in shit you like. But I get the most results, the most spiritual growth, working with vampirism and working exclusively with the abode of the dead, especially the Holy Death. The Holy Death can do wonders, but I will say this on a note. When you start working with the spirits of the dead, you can't just sit out and do this and not be mentally prepared. You really need to plan. Plan in the sense that you are, I'm not talking about be a religious fanatic and plan. Plan in the sense that you're mentally ready and prepared to work with it, because it is a very powerful energy. Powerful in the sense that you access many aspects of the psyche, your subconscious mind, that you better be prepared to deal with. And a lot of them are crossroad archetypes, as we say, because they symbolize the crossroads, because at those crossroads, you get to a point where there's many different directions you can go in. And they always work at a crossroad point, okay? They also deal with an aspect that you have to be prepared when we say, crossroads. We also say they work with a different aspect in the sense that they are road opener or path clearing archetypes. Now, not just in the sense that they clear paths and obstacles, which is one of the most important parts when doing work with these archetypes, but they also make things clear. Okay, let me stress that. I want to be clear on this. They make things clear in the sense how you saw things, and you might have saw things and thought that was the truth, or you thought that was a reality. They make you see things not how you want to see them, because a lot of us want to see things and accept things because we've already, again, predetermined how we want to do that. They make you see shit for what it is. Okay? So that's what I say you have to be prepared to be able to embrace that aspect of it. And it's a beautiful thing once you're able to face that and work with that head on. But it's the most powerful. I mean, I can't put it into words. One has to experience it. And as I said before in the beginning of this video, when I was years back in a lot of these Mickey Mouse clubs and groups, we were told that all this stuff was demonic. Stay away from it. It's the devil and it's this and it's that. And that couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. It's a bunch of bullshit. And I can testify to it. The difference between me and somebody else that hasn't been on, I've been on both sides. Okay, so I got the experience now from both sides of the fence. Whereas most people that are going to be in opposition to what I'm saying, they're coming from one side of the fence. Now, if you've come from both sides, okay, and you have the experience, and it didn't work for you, that's one thing. I can accept that. That's fine. But you're going to find out most people that will be in opposition to this path are people that have never practiced it. They're people that know nothing about it other than what they read about it or what somebody told them to stay away from it because it was evil and it was negative and it was bad and it was demonic. And my question again to that is, when you're saying the word evil, negative, bad, demonic, and devil, from what methodology and definition are you coming from? This is where the problem comes in. Because when I hear that word, I have to stop somebody. When you say demonic, what do you mean? And people, whether they're conscious of it or not, are going to give you a religious definition. And most of them will say that they're not religious. Because when somebody says something is evil, how does one determine and define something is evil? Based on what? What are they measuring it to? What are they gauging it to? It's either some type of religious ideology. If it's not that, then you must have committed that evil to recognize why you determined it being evil. Now you hear crickets. Okay? And this is why I said before, there is no such thing as evil. There is no such thing as right or wrong. Okay? It's all about perception. Some things on the surface can look very disturbing if one doesn't understand it. Okay? And I'm not talking about, again, to the extreme where somebody just randomly, like some idiotic terrorist, just randomly picks up a gun and starts killing people. Okay? Because that is, on the surface, difference between the principles of right and wrong in the universe, okay, or something that is not practical, varies from what we determine as an act of good or bad. Okay, let me explain real quick so there's no confusion with this. On this path, it is not productive for one to harm, for no apparent reason, innocent people, innocent children, animals, or do something abusive against nature. Here's the reason why. Because the laws of the universe operate different than the laws of physical man and physical female. And we're not talking about just what one would label as karma. What we're talking about simply here is we know things have to work in harmony, in unison. And what I mean by that is, if, I've said this before, I believe, on a video, if I commit a crime, okay, or I wrongfully take something, when I say wrongfully, if I steal something from somebody that does not belong to me, even no matter how I justify it, okay, and say somebody else takes that blame for me, and you know, we got this thing, you back in the day when we grew up, I don't snitch. You take the blame for somebody. All you basically did, as I said before, you delayed their punishment. Their punishment in the sense that things have to work in harmony. That person would have to, in some shape, form, or fashion, in order to keep things in harmonic rhythm in the universe, that person would have to suffer some form of punishment. Would have to, when I say punishment, that could just simply be taking responsibility. So I'm trying to move away from these preconceived religious definitions. So when I say good and bad, I'm talking about it's how one perceives that, good and bad. Then morality comes in, and this poses a problem because everybody's difference or everybody's opinion on morality varies. Some go to the extreme where it's very conservative and strict and very religious, where some are more liberal or some are very loosey-goosey with it. They don't have too many morals. Now, that might appear to us on the surface as being right or wrong based on the way we perceive it, but you have to simply put yourself in the equation and say, and not be afraid to say, because what one person perceives as right or wrong, you may not, and vice versa. But here's where the problem comes in. People don't stand firm on some of their convictions. As long as you say that this is where you stand, and you say that this is right or wrong to me, but not try to enforce that right or wrong morality on somebody else and get mad about it, I have no problem with that. So, real simple now, let's back up and do it in kindergarten terms. So if you see somebody, just for no apparent reason, bully somebody, and you say that's wrong, there's no problem with that. You understand? And not come in and, try to straddle the fence on these situations. Let me give you another example. We see in this country for the last, it's gotten real bad in the last 10, 15 years. Everybody wants to be so liberal about everything. Nobody wants to take a stance on nothing. Whether it comes to homosexuality, whether it comes to terrorism, everybody always has to say the right thing, not to step on somebody's toes. When really we know it's a bunch of bullshit, because on the surface we really know what people are trying to say. Now, that brings us into our good old friend Donald Trump. And I'm not saying I agree with everything or I even like Donald Trump. But what pisses people off simply about Donald Trump, whether you like him, hate him, can't stand him, or love him, he may not do it elegantly because he does not possess that characteristic. He just says what he feels because to him, he feels that it's right and he does not back down from it. And I'm not saying that makes it right, and I'm not saying things that he says are correct. But the problem that rubs people the wrong way, he has no problem doing it. And in that sense, I give him credit because most of us don't have that ability. Because we always got to be careful of what we say, how we say it, because we don't want to piss people off. Now, there's a way, because, and be real with yourself, there's many times you tried to stay neutral in your statements and opinions over the years because you were afraid of what people might think, or you did not want to offend people. And I'm not just talking about opposition. It could be people in your inner circle. Okay? It could be some group you belong to where you wanted to speak out in opposition. You didn't because you were afraid what everybody else in the group would think. You understand what I'm getting at? I hope this is clear. It's all to say this again, because I don't want to go into a tangent on that, and I want to kind of finish with the question of the realm of the dead, because I know I kind of veered a little bit off to the right. The point of this all is simply, one, stop following people in the sense that you rely on a particular group, ideology, philosophy, religion, dogma, or culture as a sole truth. And if you don't follow it, you're going to go to some fictitious place where something bad or evil or negative is going to happen to whatever you think in your mind. Stop following people. Think for yourself. Don't be afraid to tap into your isolated consciousness, and don't be afraid if you're in opposition to something that's presented to you. But there's a way of going about doing it. I'm not saying be a complete rebellious jackass. That's not what I'm saying. There's a professional way to go about it. But don't be afraid to stand firm on your own. Because the quicker you realize that your truth is not going to be exactly identical to the next person's truth. Because you hear the term truth is truth. My question is, what is truth? Because what might be truth in reality, again, to me or someone else, may not be to the next person. So, yeah, there's certain basic truths when we're dealing with math and science. Don't get me wrong. 1 and 1 is 2. There's nothing that can change that. Okay, I'm not talking about those truths. But when we deal with the subjective realm and we're talking about spirituality, truth goes into a whole nother stratosphere. Okay, this is where things start to drastically change and people get confused because they misinterpret truth with faith and belief. You can't do that. And this is where the confusion comes in. So think for yourself. And again, people will ask the question, what is it I should and should not do? Do what works for you and you get results. Whatever you do that does not work for you, keeps you stagnated and has been a waste of your time, toss that shit to the curb. It's that simple. It's not a complicated answer. But to the person that sent the email about the abode of the dead, I hope that clarifies that. And in short and in summarization, real simple. This is the realm of the dead. Each day you get up, you are dying. That's a reality. You are closer to eternal life. You were birthed into this universe, this world, because you wanted to come here. Now that gets into dealing with, past lives and reincarnation. That's a whole nother story. I ain't going to tackle that in this video. And I want to stress this, not everything can be explained in a book or through some scholar. And that's the other insecurity we have as people. We feel like if it's not written somewhere in a book, if we can't get some definition, then that means that it's not real. It's not reality. And that's not always the case. Okay? And people need to understand that. So you gotta understand, you are closer every day you get up. This is not living. You understand? And I'm not presenting that in some dreary or dreadful way. And I'm not saying speed up your physical death process. I'm saying enjoy the journey. Enjoy the ride while you're here. Stop restricting yourself. There is an aspect of indulgence on this physical realm. Enjoy life. Stop living like some religious fanatic. Stop living with all these restrictions as if you can't do anything. Everything we fucking do today is ostracized. And everything is bad. Don't eat this. Don't do that. Don't wear this. Don't go that. Don't listen to this. Don't watch that. Blah, 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 blah. It's all a bunch of bullshit. One must indulge in the experience to master it. Not just master it because somebody said stay the fuck away from it, it's bad for you. Well, how do you really know it's bad for you if you didn't experience it? Let you be the determining factor if that's something for me or that's something not. And I've used many different simple definitions of this. It doesn't mean you can't eat ice cream. It just means don't eat it every fucking day. You have a problem if you got to eat sugar and fatty foods and artificial preservative foods 7 days a week all the time. If you got to eat candy and sugar 24/7, then you got a problem, or even several days a week. It don't mean you can't have ice cream once or twice a month. It don't mean you can't eat fried foods once or twice a month, etc. But when you get into this fanaticism shit, like when it comes to sex and food and all these physical things that we avoid and run away from and we say we're trying to master, it's real simple. Indulge, but don't be consumed. I can't say that enough. Exercise regularly, right? Everybody goes on these fucking fanatical diets, okay? Exercise regularly, balance your eating out, and know when and what to eat at certain times. Okay, it's that simple. I used to be in that boat years ago. I found out by going to the gym 4 times a week, eating certain things at certain times and not overdoing it. I found that fixed that problem, okay? And I found out by doing it that way, you can basically eat whatever the fuck you want to eat. Again, but you must educate yourself on when and how much and know your limitations, okay? This, again, sexual desires, it applies to that too. Some of us suppress them. We avoid them. We don't want to tap into our sexual fantasies, and we think by suppressing them or living them out in some other ridiculous way that it's going to bring gratification, okay? And that tends to consume us because we don't know how to carry those desires out. List can go on and on. I mean, shit, I can be talking about this all night. There is an indulgence aspect of this. Stay away from this bullshit, fictitious thing that you're not supposed to enjoy life physically, that you're not supposed to indulge in certain things, that you're not supposed to have fun. That's the problem with all these different dogmas. Like, you can't, everything is fucking depressing. Like, don't live life. You can't do anything. Don't go to the movies. Everything is, and stay away from all those groups that the white man this and the white man, stay away from that shit. But you're going to find out they're more religious and fanatical than religious people themselves. Enjoy the journey. You are here for a reason physically, not to just sit here and suffer. You are here to understand both parts of the physical and the spiritual. Okay? You need to embrace the physical too. People always say this bullshit, don't be of the world, don't be in the world, or don't be of it. Be in it, but don't be of it. And be a fucking hermit and meditate and fast and that. Look, it's about harmonizing all those things, balancing your time. As I said before, there's a time for meditation, spirituality, studying, individual rituals, collective rituals. There's also a time just to kick back, to hang out, to eat some good food, to watch a good movie, watch a good TV show, enjoy sports, etc. Okay, I'm not one of those people that think that this is all tools of the devil, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. Because half of them people that are saying that, they on the down low, participating in all that shit. It's a bunch of bullshit. Okay? And I find out over the years, a lot of those groups that promote that, it's a bunch of bullshit. So I say to you, enjoy life to the fullest. I don't care what anybody says. And don't be ashamed. Here's another thing. Sometimes we're condemned and we're ostracized if we're successful on a financial level, because then you're determined you're a sellout because you have a nice car or cars, you have a nice house, you're making good money. He or she, they're in the world and they're all about materialistic blah blah blah. As I said before, most people that make those statements are people that are struggling themselves and having problems. And as we know the old saying, misery loves company. Anybody that's ostracizing you for being successful on a financial and a physical level, I tell you to tell them to go fuck themselves. Because if you stay around those people long enough, and I can attest to this years ago, you will become broke and miserable and depressive and poor and just a pathetic human being like they are. It's that simple. Stay away from those individuals. The beauty of this path is, again, why I want to do this video, it creates the harmony between both worlds, the physical and the spiritual. And if you don't have that harmony and you don't know how to work with both of it, you don't got nothing. But anyway, I'm going to end it there. And again, to the person that sent the question with the realm of the dead, man, you were persistent, and I appreciate you keep hitting me up. I apologize for missing those first couple of emails, and I know that was digging at you. So I truly hope that answers it. Now again, you don't have to agree with what I said. I can only explain things based on how I've experienced them, and my experiences are not going to always correlate and relate to where you are or where you're at in your spirituality. And that's where people struggle with, because sometimes they're not getting the answer that they're looking for. So I can only explain it based on what I've experienced, and hopefully you can connect with some of them experiences and relate to them to a certain level. But obviously come to the conclusion of that answer yourself. So I hope that helps you or pushes you in the right direction, and don't be deceived. And and I know you mentioned in that email you are very intrigued with working with the spirits of the dead. It's something that resides within you, and I would say pursue that passion. If that's what's burning within you, I would say pursue it. I would say work with it and embrace it and see where it takes you. Because as I said before, anybody that gets that urge to work that particular path, dealing with this level of spirituality, it's not for naught. Anybody that's called in that area is called for a reason, because they have a strong connection with the spirits of the dead. All right, so I'm going to leave that there. Again, as a reminder, just briefly, again, as far as the collective group rituals, we are not doing nothing for this month and next month. We will restart the rituals in the end of January. We will post that. Again, we'll be back on the Awaken Universal Minds radio show on Thursday, December 7th. And again, remember, we do the radio show the first and the third Thursday of every month. Okay? So we're just taking a break. Just get some downtime to recharge the batteries. That's it. And again, those that are interested in consultations, as I said in the beginning, you know how they work. It lasts till we're done, or up until an hour, whichever one comes first. Can be done face to face or on a social media platform such as Google Hangouts, which I prefer, Skype, emo app, etc. It can be paid via PayPal or Square, and I charge $52 to do it. If you are interested in a consultation, again, at least email me a couple days before. Try to give me at least a 48-hour notice. And I just go in order as I get them. It's that simple. I don't go in any particular order. And that's pretty much it. Till the next time, I have no idea what we'll talk about on the next video. Those, as you know, I kind of just, whatever comes spur of the moment, we'll just build on it. So for those that did send emails, I hope this video answered some of your questions, or at least push you in the right direction, so you can come to the conclusion of that answer yourself. Peace.